Hello guys, this is Collins Lagat and let us begin today's video. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, bundling is the act of selling several products or services together, effectively selling them as one unit. So how is bundling related to web development? Well, we have adopted this term to refer to the merging of multiple JavaScript files into a single JavaScript file. So if we are combining our JavaScript files into one, then it follows that they were developed separately and on purpose. Why do we do this? Well, the reason is simple. It's easier to develop this way, especially for projects of medium to large size. Splitting our JavaScript files into separate files and folders allows us to separate our concerns, test our code, and make it easier for reading, among other important things. I think that we can all agree that it will be difficult to onboard a new developer onto a project that only exists on a single JavaScript file, but whose lines are at least 500,000. You can imagine such a scenario playing out like this. Listen here, Jeffrey. I would like you to make the function on line 2013 work better with the function on line 110,000. It's causing a bug on line 53. Kindly make haste, will you? It's magnitude of times easier to have those functions side by side as separate files on your text editor than constantly scrolling back and forth thousands of lines of code. If separating files is so awesome, why don't we ship them that way? Well, the reason is also simple. It's horrible for website performance. In the earlier versions of the HTTP protocol, requests were done not in parallel, but one after the other. Imagine how long it would take YouTube to load if each thumbnail had to be loaded one by one after the other, before the page would be considered fully loaded. This problem is compounded by the fact that creating HTTP connections is expensive as it consumes some amount of RAM. You can imagine the chunk of RAM eaten by websites that make thousands of requests. But we have come a long way from those days, as today's HTTP protocol fetches assets in parallel. Hussein Nasser has a great video on the HTTP protocol. I have linked it below. Despite this, we still need to optimize performance for users with slower internet and for users with lower-end devices. Any effort that reduces the number of HTTP connections will greatly improve their performance. Since all JavaScript files within a project have to pass through the bundler for them to be merged into a single JavaScript file, something like a pipe or a pipeline is effectively created. This creates a perfect opportunity to use this pipeline to examine the contents of the stream of files that are passing through it. It's like standing over a bridge and watching the water and boats pass below you. However, it must be said that you are not just limited to viewing the stream of files passing through the bundler. One of the biggest features that bundlers allow developers to do is to pull out any content as it flows through the pipeline, change it in a desired way, and hand it back to the pipeline. This is equivalent to diverting water from a river into a rice field for the purposes of irrigation before diverting it back into the river. This big feature is largely made available by most bundlers through a plugin architecture. And it's this plugin architecture that turns a simple tool from being just another tool into being a straight-up platform, or at the very least, a pseudo-platform. Thousands of developers have developed an ecosystem of very important tools around these bundlers. Some plugins improve the bundler's core functionality. For example, there is this Rollup plugin that reports the statistics about the size of the outputted bundle. This allows developers to see if the bundle has grown too big for deployment. Some plugins extend the bundler's capabilities beyond just bundling. An example of this is the Webpack dev server, which allows users to locally serve their websites. Some plugins integrate external tools with the bundler for the purposes of changing the content of the files passing through it. Examples of these plugins include plugins that integrate Babel, TypeScript, Sass, and PostCSS. That's it, guys. I hope you learned something valuable. Give me a like and a comment, and let us meet here soon. Cheers.